Hello everyone. Today's question comes from YouTubebular85 who writes, I read in a blog you wrote for Autism Speaks that you used to shoot drugs. Are you a junkie? By answering this question, I will doubtlessly risk my reputation and open myself up to a lot of nasty and judgmental comments, but hey, it won't be the first time. While I'm not proud of my drug use, I'm also not ashamed. It's part of my journey thus far, and the mistakes I've made and the lessons I've learned are a part of who I am. I never imagined that I would one day abuse drugs. Growing up, I always tried to obey all the rules and made a great effort to please everyone around me. My dad played Major League Baseball when I was a child, and because of that, we moved dozens of times. I was always the new kid, and I think this helped to increase a sense of isolation that I already felt. I wouldn't really realize that I was gay until the fourth or fifth grade, and wouldn't be diagnosed as autistic until I was 24. However, I always knew that I was different. Though an injury forced my father to retire from baseball when I was 8 years old, we still moved an awful lot. And my sister's diagnosis of leukemia and death 7 years later, my brother's brain tumor and surgery, and a lot of other traumatic health situations ensured that my life continued to be very chaotic. At school, I was bullied quite a bit because I was effeminate and socially awkward. I had powerful obsessions which weren't exactly age appropriate. Most sixth graders don't want to discuss German expressionism in the silent cinema. I started goofing off in class in an attempt to win friends. Both my parents had been very popular when they were growing up, and my younger siblings already had lots of friends. I felt a lot of pressure to fit in, but acceptance eluded me. When I was a sophomore in high school, a popular girl asked me to a dance. I couldn't imagine why she had asked me, but I'd never been so happy. At a party after that dance, I smoked marijuana for the first time. I didn't get high, but I pretended to, and suddenly everyone treated me very, very differently. All at once, I was invited to after school get-togethers, and people wanted to be my friend. By my senior year, I was smoking pot daily, and had tried cocaine and mushrooms and pain pills. And I was dating a lot of really beautiful girls, and that made me feel really good. But secretly, I still knew that I was gay, and this caused me a great deal of pain because my family was very religious. My parents were very religious, and homophobic attitudes were commonplace at home and at the Christian school I went to, and at church, and I think while all the family health trauma caused me a lot of hurt and anxiety, more even than that, I used the drugs to numb the pain associated with my sexual identity and the feelings surrounding that. And the older I got, the harder it was to ignore those feelings, the more drugs I used. After my sister's death, she died right before my eyes. I was holding her hand, and that was really hard. And hard drugs quickly became a part of my daily life. One day I was hanging out with a couple of drug users I met at work. They gave me a pill which they claimed was ecstasy. An hour later, I couldn't seem to use my muscles or keep my eyes open, and the people I was with had begun undressing. I heard one of the men say, "Well, it won't be any fun if he lays there like a fish." He left the room and returned with a syringe full of what I would later learn to be methamphetamine. He grabbed my arm and gave me an injection. The rush was so intense I thought I would die. but I never felt so good in my life. Um, I continued using methamphetamine, did not sleep or eat for 5 days. During this time, I became quite psychotic, and I was arrested after delivering meth for the man who injected me to an undercover informant. Eventually, I went to rehab and I got sober. Um, I then moved back in with my parents. Um, was diagnosed with autism spectrum disorder. Began getting published a lot and being offered speaking engagements. Came out of the closet and quickly became estranged from my family, all in less than a year. I could no longer live with my family and was more or less homeless, just crashing with friends, uh, bouncing from place to place for over a year. During this time, some really horrible things happened between my family and I. I won't get into all the details, but I felt incredibly hurt and incredibly betrayed, and as a result of some of the actions that were taken, it seemed as if I lost everything that I had worked so hard to accomplish. I had finally built for myself the life that I had always dreamed of having, and I watched all of it taken from me, and I became incredibly severely depressed and suicidal. I attempted suicide a number of times. I put myself in a coma twice. Uh, Eventually, my grandparents took me in. I attempted suicide 2 more times when I was staying with them. Um, I had reached out to pastors and counselors and psychiatrists and every element of the mental health facility in my town. No one could seem to help me. Um, so I did go back to the meth um, and used it daily for about a month. It prevented me from committing suicide for the month I used it, but I knew it couldn't be a long-term solution, and I felt horribly guilty about it because I had been sober, and it was terrible. Um, I couldn't get into rehab quickly enough, so I checked myself into the hospital, a psychiatric hospital. It has been a few months since then, and I've never felt better. I received treatment for my depression and moved into a psychiatric care facility, which I love. Structure, exercise, and medication have done wonders for me. I no longer hear that voice inside my head screaming, "Fix me, fix me, fix me." You know, today I'm happy to be alive. Um, Over and over again, I have had to learn how to love and respect myself for who I am. Sometimes life makes that very difficult. Sometimes people make that very difficult. Sometimes we make that very difficult for ourselves. But it doesn't matter how many times I fall, so long as I get back up again. And I think if there's anything that I am especially good at, anything that life has taught me, it's how to get back up again. I've been getting back up again all my life, and every time I do, I stand a little taller and hold my head a little higher, and I'm a little happier, and I learn to cherish that experience of falling down, because it really does feel good to get back up again. I've made a great many mistakes in my life, and I've paid dearly for them. But I don't want you to think of me as just another sob story. I'm grateful for every second of my life, even the painful ones. If there's anything which I hope you will learn from my story, it's that drug addicts are not simply selfish people who want to feel better than they deserve. They most often are using drugs not to feel pleasure, but to dull pain. There is still tremendous stigma surrounding drug addiction, and addicts are often treated as less than human. I hope this story will cause you to be a bit more compassionate towards the addict in your life. I know you have one because one way or another, addiction impacts all of us. Anyway, thank you all for watching.